we're going to start off with another breaking down breaking point segment.
Deal.
That's what we were going to do.
Deal. We can do that.
So
About the national divorce, you guys.
Yes. So we're going to start off real interesting, and then we're going to have some more fun. Although I think national divorce is a really fun subject, especially because for those of us who have not been having the discussion for years now at this point, watching all the new people jump into the conversation with their super ignorant takes is super entertaining for me.
So the other one that we had watched was with Jashinsky still on it.
Oh, was it? I pulled up the wrong one.
Yeah. And
This is
one,
I'll pull that up.
I just haven't watched this one.
I think it's the one about Hannity and Marjorie Taylor Greene.
Yes. I just haven't watched that one. That's the only reason I...
Breaking Points. Oh, look. I unsubscribed from them from our Assault of the Streets page.
That's awesome.
That is hilarious.
I think it was from the same day.
With Jasinski?
Yeah, I think it's from Tuesday still.
Tuesday, look at the calendar, Tuesday the 21st. Let's see here. MTG Slam for National Divorce comments. There we go. I knew something was wrong here. No free ads. The fucking communists in Washington State trying to get us all solar.
Kristen Ball's looking old.
You know, when she's sitting next to Sauger, it's not that bad. But when she's sitting next to Jasinski, it's pretty noticeable. I just got to say that. Even with her shoulder pads and all.
Tell us in the chat, what do you guys think of Emily Jashinsky? That's the question. What do you think?
What do you think? All right, let's do it. Breaking down breaking points V2.
News from that side of the aisle. You want to set this one up, Emily?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene has called for a...
Got to be half her age, by the way. Damn near.
Yeah,
national
I think Jashinsky
divorce
is probably
using
about
that
the same
exact
age as I am,
language.
Yeah.
She was sort of mocked for this tweet yesterday. This is the quote: "We need a national divorce. We need to separate by red states and blue states and shrink the federal government." Everyone I talk to says this. From the second, it's like
Who are you
Trump, right?
talking to,
Many
That's
people
pretty
are
funny.
saying.
Everyone I talk to says this.
Yeah, it is pretty funny.
Sick and disgusting woke culture
Many
issues
French
shoved
fries.
down our throats to the Democrats' traitorous America Last policies. We are done. We are.
Okay, so as an advocate, a great advocate for national divorce, the message that MTG is selling here is not the correct one.
Not good.
We do not want a national divorce based on red states and blue states. That is not how this works,
Right.
even in the slightest. Not even in the slightest. But we'll take it from there because this is what we're doing.
Are done. All right. So obviously, somebody with now as much clout in the Republican Party as Marjorie Taylor Greene.
I hate internet culture so fucking much because just like it took one person on the internet, mind you, she works for the White House, Kareem Jean-Pierre, to put the stupid fucking saying like, "Oh, it's top of mind," into everybody's, and now it is common vernacular.
Yeah.
This whole thing, clout now has become it's kind of like grift. I use grift all the time, but like
Right.
same thing, clout and grift right now, everywhere in common vernacular. If you're at all associated with the internet, because it just becomes like the hit new term for everybody to start fucking using, and I hate it so goddamn much. I hate it so fucking much. You don't need a made up fucking word. You can just say what it is that you want to say without using clout.
No one's ever had it on the internet before, Colin. It's new. I have to think of something else.
It's just not common. It wasn't common before. Anyway, carry on.
Greene actually does have,
She got clout.
She is in a position right now. I wouldn't have predicted this maybe a couple of years ago, but she is in a position right now where she does genuinely have some clout in the Republican Party, and here she
powers and
is
say.
calling outright for a national divorce. That's why we're covering it here, because it is worth talking about. There have been on the right, especially, some rumblings of this. There always are, by the way.
She's really uncomfortable because she's slightly turned on by the fact that a national divorce really does tickle all the libertarian feels, but she knows where she's at and she can't even entertain the concept. So
Right.
she looks very uncomfortable to me right now.
I remember this, like going back years, there's always that conversation. there's an interesting point to be made about the fact that we have sort of come apart, to borrow the language from the book Coming Apart, in socioeconomic ways, in that people who are at very
Deep
different
cut.
ends of the socioeconomic spectrum are basically living in
smart
different
'cause I wear
worlds
glasses
within
on
our
Ray
own
Buck.
country at this point. But that said, Marjorie Taylor Greene's argument falls apart because of her own state. What do you do with Georgia, right? I mean,
Right.
seriously, a
Do
purple state like
you
Georgia.
live in a blue state? or a red state?
Exactly. Exactly. And are your neighbors who you
You
might
live in a blue state because the capital city, the fucking Atlanta, just like we here in fucking Washington State have to deal with fucking Seattle, where the vast majority of wherever you're gonna drive around in the state is gonna have a fucking Trump sign in their lawn,
Right.
back from 2020. The vast majority of the area that you're dealing with are those people, but because you have a highly concentrated population center in a city, which is the same for all fucking states, just a matter of whether or not that city is big enough or not. That makes Georgia a blue state.
Right.
I would have some serious questions about that. But
the same deal
the
as
way
like-
our number game works, it's weird.
It's like you said with Washington. Even if you go out to just like Quilcene,
Bro.
that's not that far. Like
Nope.
that's all Trump signs out there.
Yeah,
you know?
it's fucking Tacoma through Seattle.
Yeah.
and like the suburbs of Seattle,
Yeah.
and that's what controls the politics in our entire state. No different in Georgia.
might get along with fine and who voted for Warnock or who voted for Ossoff. What do you think of them? Do you think they should live in a different country? Do you think that they do live in a different country and it hasn't been formally determined at this point? And so I think it's an opportunity, I think, to really consider the impracticality, not just, I don't mean that like logistically, but
Yeah.
just like actually philosophically, it makes no sense. It's an incoherent kind of idea.
I mean, there's a few things to say about this. To me, it feels like a sort of throwing up of your hands and abandonment of any idea of a democratic, small d, democratic nation where, okay,
We're not a democratic nation. Are we?
Right.
No.
No.
No. We're a democratic republic.
Right.
We are not a democratic nation. That would be the polar opposite of what the founders would have wanted. So just to make sure we remember, she's now operating off a false assumption of what America should be.
Well, and I don't think that to pursue the idea of a national divorce is to give up. I think that's to pursue a different idea. That this doesn't work anymore. I don't want
Exactly.
to do this anymore.
Nope.
And that's supposed to be a choice that we all have in deciding whether or not we want to take part in this system. That's instead, we've talked about it many times, it's instead this assumed acceptance of the social contract that is thrust upon us when we become
Implied
adults.
consent.
Yeah, that it continues through generations that keeps us bound to this, you know?
Yep.
How many people have to be involved or have to buy into the idea of a national divorce before that becomes okay to discuss?
Yep.
You know, there's certainly...
It's going to become
Yeah.
harder to take arguments that are put forward, like MTG is going to put up. That's a bad take. Just that's a bad place to start the
state
conversation.
thing is a bad call.
It
Yeah,
is
this-
not. That's not where this even begins.
Yeah.
Because no, if we're going to do a national divorce, there's going to be different fucking state lines. That's how that's going to work. It's not. It has nothing to do with the current makeup of our own states at all.
You're talking about forming two different countries in the same
Yes.
landmass that we have now. It's going to
Indeed.
look completely differently. It's going to
Completely
take
different.
time because people need time to move. They need time to choose. They need time. Like everyone.
Yes.
It's part of a national divorce. People have choice. You
Yes.
know. I agree with you. The other day when we started talking about it, I was like very hesitant. You know, because of the parameters in which this is lined out in this conversation. You know.
Yeah.
And I think. My biggest concern with the idea of a national divorce in general is that's a huge undertaking. It's a massive undertaking
100%.
that I think a lot of people don't consider when they say, "Well, let's just fucking split up. Let's just national divorce it." You know, they will eventually start talking about this like an ultra online thing. You know, and that is total nonsense.
online.
There are people. Michael Mouse is a great example of people who are in favor of this that are giving legitimate, actual thought to how this would happen. They're not just
author of multiple fine books.
right. They're not just saying, fuck it, I just don't want to do this anymore. It's not a give up thing. It's
No.
this doesn't work and I don't want to partake in this system anymore and I deserve to have a choice in the system that I take part in.
Indeed.
And if there are enough people who agree with me, then we should also all have the choice to leave collectively and have somewhere else in this country that we all supposedly live in.
Fact check true. Base take, Donovan.
Thank you.
Okay, you disagree with whatever the Biden administration's doing, there's going to be another election. Like, that's the whole
That's
idea
not-
is, okay,
And
we
that's
have
how
this push
you
and
can
pull,
tell
and-
she
That is
doesn't
not it.
tell she doesn't understand even what the discussion is, because this isn't about the Biden administration.
No.
It's when people are talking about the government or national divorce, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene hinted at, it's about the government itself. It's not about who is in power. It's not about the parties.
No.
It's about the government, the size of the actual government that exists here, that there are some people like Crystal Ball who think that is the way to go. The size of this government is perfect. It should maybe even be bigger. There are some people who are the
Nationalize it.
complete polar opposite of that. They say the size of this is so monstrously large that the people who started this country could never have even thought that it would grow to be this size. But here we are, and I don't want to be a part of this because this isn't what I believe in. This isn't what our founders believed in. Those are both, I don't want to say reasonable takes because a larger government is insane to me, but they're both valid takes. They're both perfectly valid points of view that deserve to be respected, and under the current system, they cannot both be at the same time.
Exactly. They're both valid takes on two separate forms of governance.
Yes.
The major, like her major takeaway at this point, like when she hears this, what she hears is, I'm going to move to Canada because Donald Trump got elected.
Right.
That's where she's operating off of, which is not at all what a national divorce conversation
No.
is actually about. Not even at all. And I'm not going to lie, I was a little surprised, like when this first clip came up, like how little thought you had devoted to this concept a little bit.
Yeah.
I think that just shows that even this far into our intellectual relationship, you can still surprise me because we find ourselves in different niches at different times.
Yeah.
And I have been heavy on the national divorce thing for a long time at this point. And I was like, wait, you haven't really thought about that much? Nice. I'm excited. We're going to talk about it.
And to me, I don't think about it that much because it's difficult for me to conceptualize it coming to pass. You know, I agree with it because you're right. We have discussed it before. I maybe even on the show.
Yeah.
And I agree with it. Like I'm in favor of that idea of us if we're gonna have a country, some form of structure where we're all involved in. I agree with having choice because right
Indeed.
now I have had none. I have had none. I've had no choice in other than taking part in the rat race and all the bullshit that everyone
Yes.
says that they hate, right?
Yes.
I deserve to have choice, so I agree with that. It's difficult for me to see a world where I'm given that choice,
Yeah.
so it's not something that I think about that much.
Yeah.
You know? And that is why.
And the most difficult question, which they won't even address at this point, right, is when you talk about national divorce, there's a lot of really hard questions. I think I wrote a piece on this once upon a time for
think
the
you did
website.
too.
I think so. But the biggest question is always
Go subscribe to the Patreon.
That's right.
It's where all of the newsletters are, and you can find some of our old writings on the website at saltofthestreets.com. If you search for the, what do we call them? The dissents.
The dissents.
If you
Oh, the
search
old
for
school
the
dissents, bro.
Old writings.
Oh,
if
buddy.
you search for the dissents on the website, you can find some of our super old writings. And if you go to the Patreon and subscribe at the $5 tier, you get newsletters.
Much like our very, very, very old YouTube videos.
This one's going to be late, just so you know. 28 days is bullshit.
It's right. We need at least
Yeah.
2 extra. 30 to 31 days. That's what we
is bullshit. So this is the Soul to the Streets leap year. It's 2 days, not one. So
I'm saying Daddy's got soccer on Monday, all right?
yeah, it's a lot of shit going on. I got to be at soccer. I got to drink beers. There's
You
shit.
coming, bro? You coming on Monday?
Of
You gonna try-
course. Yeah, we got
Yes.
coverage. I'll be there.
You guys are probably going to miss next game after because that's a stupid late game.
Yeah, we'll see what happens.
But yeah, I'm excited.
I'll post some pictures on the story of Colin playing soccer.
Oh, it's going to be rough.
Indoor, it's great.
It is super great. You get
Yeah.
to see Lurch out there doing his thing. That's me. I am basically John Fetterman, but
I-
minus the downs.
I asked Jordan if you were fast, and she was like, you know, when he starts running, like he's fast because your legs are so long that you're just covering an insane amount of area with every stride.
yeah, but also
That's-
Daddy's out of shape, so he doesn't run that fast all the time.
When I went shooting with those dudes, there was a guy named I won't say his name, but there was a guy who was like 2 or 3 inches taller than me and probably like 260 pounds. He was a big dude.
Big dude.
And when he was the same deal. When he first started running, like, he was not fast, but when he started cooking, he was moving, and I was really impressed. I said to somebody else the same deal. I was like, he does not look fast, but when he starts going, he's fucking cooking. Just because. And the guy he's bounding. Like, he's bounding with
fucking
every
gazelle,
step.
baby.
Yeah, he is going. I was very impressed because I did not expect for him to be fast, but he was fucking moving.
You know,
Like,
we don't have
dude.
a lot of torque off the line, but once we get rolling, baby, we a Tesla.
It took him probably 3 or 4 steps before I was like, oh shit, okay. Yeah, at first I was like, oh no, like, this one's gonna take a minute, but yeah, he started going. I was like, okay, fucking word, dude.
Well, I look very much forward to the verbal abuse on Tuesday.
It's gonna be great.
It's gonna be fantastic.
Yeah.
All right. Let's get back to this.
That's the type of dude that when he leaves cover, you got to make sure you have a full mag, so you can cover him for a good few seconds before he starts moving. He needs time.
It's a slow trickle, and then it happens all at once really fast.
Yes, yeah. You don't have to worry about him getting to cover as long as he can get out. You know.
Yeah, the country has different ideas about exactly how we should accomplish it. That's why we have a democracy.
We don't have a
where
democracy.
You appoint representatives, and where you elect representatives,
Pretty
and where
close.
you run on a platform and you make your case for your ideas and may the
Even
best
she doesn't
ideas
understand.
win.
Kevin, you're right. It's really sad because she's a grown ass woman. She's probably older than all of us. I don't know,
Indeed.
Kevin. I don't know how old you are. She's in her 40s. You're definitely not in your 40s. If you are, fucking congratulations. But she's in her 40s. She doesn't even understand what she's laying out. She's saying this is why we have democracy, and then lays out a representative democracy.
Yes.
Like a republic. You don't
republic.
even. You don't even understand what you're talking about.
Yes.
You're even in this description. You're conflating two. No, it's not on purpose, but you are confusing two separate forms of government.
100%.
Come on, Crystal.
That's the whole idea of what we're doing here. That's number one. Number
Jasinski, don't
two
do it.
Correct
is,
her,
I
Jasinski.
mean, part of why I wanted to cover this, because we don't cover the utterances of Marjorie Taylor Greene all that often on this show,
I roll.
is because it's really the polar opposite of the view of the country that we believe in and are trying to promote with this show. I mean, you know, I'm sitting here with you. We have some different ideas about things. Sagar and I have some different ideas about things.
Yeah, little do you know, Crystal, that like Jasinski truly believes that the size of the government that you want should be drastically and exponentially curtailed.
Yeah.
Just so you know. If you've ever watched her on The Federalist, you'd know better. She's not an ally of yours, actually. She's just being nice to you.
I like when she does her solo shit on the Federalist.
It
when
is-
it's just
it's
her with the headphones in front of the computer.
Also, get a better setup. But
Yeah.
okay.
Her and Malice,
And
dude.
in no
Yeah, Malice, I just chalk it up to he's old. He's from the Soviet Union. I'll give it to him. He
Yeah.
thinks this is a miracle. He doesn't understand the true peak of cheap Chinese child slave labor tech. He just doesn't quite get it. How tall is Big Bird? He is 6'4".
Yeah.
Indeed.
You're a
and it's
tall
mostly in the
6'4".
legs, man.
You're a tall 6'4".
Yeah, I did buying pants is a bitch.
I
Put it
bet.
that way. It's always been a bitch.
Because I'm
The legs
6'2",
go
and
forever.
it feels like you're more than 2 inches taller than me when I stand next to you. But
Yeah, that's all right. 2 inches. I can still see the top of your head. That's fine. All right. We're moving on.
world am I like, this is irreconcilable, we must get a national divorce. And I think that the reason the show, I think, has been successful is because that is much more reflective of how people actually...
The reason that their show is not representative of what a national divorce is because Sagar is not actually a Republican. He's like a soft conservative. You know what I'm saying? And
He's a conservative light.
So their differences are not insurmountable. The differences between someone like a Michael Malice and a Crystal Ball are insurmountable.
Yes.
We are talking about someone who wants a government that forces you to do everything that they think is best for you and tells you that you have a choice, and someone who wants to be convinced of everything and never wants to be told what to do ever. Those two differences are not those are insurmountable. They're not done. They cannot be dealt with.
Yep.
And to expect those people to happily live under the same government is ridiculous.
Yes. I like Kevin's like, yeah, cool. We're all over 6 foot. All right. Anyway.
I like it.
live in their normal lives than this like bizarrely fringe ultra online take.
Bitch. You don't know. Ultra online my ass. All right. Let's put it this way. Don't denigrate me and Michael Malice like that, all right?
Oh, I love that.
Just because you don't understand what it is you're talking about doesn't degrade our argument at all. Because you have nobody there that can actually argue with you and counter. The reason we just don't parrot, MTG on this show. Blah, blah. It's because nobody there is willing to actually take I'm actually going to drop a hard R here. Marjorie Taylor Greene's retarded fucking cocktail of ideas and the way she spews them out. There's no person you're ever going to have on your show that's willing to actually take what she says and put it into like rational thought and a coherent argument.
Right. Give
just
it some
because,
form of credence
yes.
and like a little bit of grace, that,
yes.
like she's going to say wild shit like
because
you said,
MTG
so draw the truth out of it.
I have listened to her talk at great length for multiple hours at a time.
On IRL.
When she's not on the stump talking and making speeches and saying shit in the Senate. She's a much more based individual than normal, but when she's put on the spot, she's kind of like Lauren Boebert that way. When they have to like make sound bites and do the Politico thing, they talk like they're fucking idiots. They don't have a good understand. They don't have a deep foundational understanding of the ideas they're trying to push forward, and they are far and away the best advocates for their points of view.
Yes.
Right? They are just the people that they happen to get elected to try to push those points of view.
Right.
They are definitely not the best at spreading the message for that. They are some of the worst. They just happen to be elected at that point. If Crystal Ball was to actually have somebody like Michael Malice on that show, he would fucking run circles around her, and she wouldn't have a single thing to say other than, the whole nationalize it, bro type of concept. She'd be reaching for sound bites and bullshit because she can't get out of that. If she was ever faced with somebody that actually agreed with this concept and was able to argue with her and talk to her about this in a coherent fashion, not in a 6-minute fucking clip or a 10-minute clip that she puts on her next, adjacent to fucking mainstream media show.
Right.
I have an analogy to put where Breaking Points is in the realm of media. If CNN, NBC, and all this shit, if all the mainstream shit, it's like an onion, right?
Yes.
They're top layer. You peel the cover off, and there's CNN and shit. You pull that layer off, Breaking Points is there. They're one layer removed from mainstream media.
Yeah.
People like you and I are fucking layers deep in that. Somebody like Michael Malice is a couple layers deep on that. He's way more mainstream. He's way more popular and all that stuff, obviously. But they are just
still part of the core.
They're one Kevin Bacon away from fucking mainstream, from MSNBC. She used to work for MSNBC.
Right.
She
Sagar used
is
to work
those
for
people.
Fox.
Yes, they are those people. They just didn't quite fit in there. So they're one step removed. This is not deep philosophical takes, especially about this particular subject, which they clearly know absolutely nothing about.
Right.
Moving on.
Of Marjorie Taylor Greene.
It is ultra online.
It's only if you're like okay, she says like
I
everybody
don't
I
think
talk to
she
says
could
this.
even
Are you
take Marjorie Taylor Greene, like to sit down with her. I don't think that she could even handle that conversation.
Because I've seen Marjorie Taylor Greene in long sit-down conversations.
Right.
She's not that bad.
Yeah.
I like her a lot when she's sitting down talking for 2 hours.
Give her a minute to chill out.
Yeah. She has a good time. She makes some good points.
you only talking to the worst people on Twitter? Because that's what the view of the world you would get is if you spend way too much time down a rabbit hole on like Twitter or Getter or True Social or whatever your social media of choice happens to be.
Bro, tell me you're a Washington D.C. flunky without telling me you're a Washington D.C. flunky.
Yeah.
You couldn't cut it in the mainstream corporate press, so you're just one step removed from that because you can't cut it there. That's exactly what that did. It's just so it's so extreme online, blah blah blah. It's not real. These people, you just get off Twitter for a little while. You have no idea what you're talking about here.
But if you're actually like existing in the world and living with your neighbors, many of whom may have different ideologies and vote for different politicians than you, like this is not the experience of the country that most people have on a day-to-day basis.
Says the woman that works and lives in Washington, D.C.
Right.
Yeah. Okay.
I live in a county
On
that
the
is
internet.
quite conservative and has been for a long time, voted for Donald Trump. I mean, this is where I was born and raised.
Yeah, it takes you 30 minutes to drive to your job in D.C., where you live and have all your friends. Got it.
And again, at no moment have I been like, this is irreconcilable. We need to give up on democracy and just split
That's
at,
because,
split at
that's
the
because
seams.
your dad,
It's-
who you use to reference for all these
Yes.
gun things, still doesn't believe in an AR-15. He would still never own one of those. That's not a difference of opinion.
No.
That's the same opinion coded by, I don't know, maybe a little bit of age. I know, but that's all. That's not.
Yep.
Those are not differences in opinion. If you don't live and talk to someone consistently who says "fuck the ATF," you don't know about a difference in opinion. If you think that's something that only exists on Twitter or Getter or whatever social media you use,
It's the
then
fringe
you aren't
ultra
fucking
online.
connected. You aren't connected because
have
there
no
are
idea.
we were 40 million people at risk of becoming felons over a decision the ATF just made, and you have no fucking idea.
Yep.
You have no fucking idea that that's what's going on here.
And she's never been put in that position either.
No, she
So
would
she
never
has
do
no
anything
idea.
where she could be turned to felon overnight. You're correct.
Yep. She went to journalism school, and of course, she has these takes on stuff. She's been indoctrinated, can't break free.
100%.
She was born into it, man.
So I think it's a very sad and very pessimistic view of the country ultimately.
Yeah, and again,
patronizing.
it is true that we are having a hard time agreeing on like very, very, very fundamental questions about, for instance, what is gender? What is truth? What is disinformation? What
It's the same question, Jasinski, by the way. You're asking what is gender, what is truth? That is that's the question.
Right.
That's the question.
is democracy? Like, we actually are having a hard time coming to terms with those questions. That is not unprecedented in American history. We have had a very hard time determining the value of human beings. There are people who disagreed on that, perhaps the most fundamental question in human
We
existence
still
in this
do.
country. And that's not to say that we've handled it perfectly. It's not to say that everything is just peachy and that the United States is the perfect example of how to sort of work through these questions. But it is to say the whole point of what we do, as opposed to what other countries have done in human history, is work through these things and use this tool of constitutional democracy to create a more peaceful existence to the best of our ability. The best of our ability is not always going to be perfect.
Don't talk about the Constitution and then say democracy. That really a constitutional democracy. Wrong. We
Right.
are a constitutional republic, Jasinski, and you
Right.
know that. That's what really bothers me most about this clip, is that Jasinski knows better. And you don't have to go that far back through her own fucking video library to prove that she knows better. I do not know what is fucking happening here, and it's really infuriating.
Come on, Jashinsk.
Jasinsk.
And it is going to be, sadly, tragic, violent, all of those things. Human existence is tragic and violent and all of those things, but
Yes.
we're working towards a better form of it. And to give up on that,
Yeah.
We're not giving up on
that's
it.
really sad.
Yeah. I mean, there were a lot of people on there who were like, this is treasonous, whatever. She can say what she wants to say. But I do
Ooh.
think it's kind of I would say that the sentiment at the core of it is kind of anti-American because of exactly the reasons that you're laying out.
Okay. Let me ask you a question, Donovan. How did America start? Were we? It's anti-American to want to divorce yourself from the government that overrules you, right? In Crystal Ball's eyes. Is that not how America started? By divorcing ourselves from an overruling government that we thought was too tyrannical?
Something called the Declaration of Independence.
Founding documents. Revolutionary War. George Washington. You're a fucking idiot. Sorry. Okay, we carry on. We'll just let it play out.
It goes against the core of the best notions of what America is supposed to be. Not that we've lived up to it, not that we live up to it today,
What
but
she thinks
again,
America should be.
I find the
Right.
comments profoundly sad that you would just sort of like give up on the country in this way. And I wasn't the only one. There were lots of Republicans who were not impressed with what she had to say here. This is Spencer Cox, who is the governor of Utah,
Cox?
Republican,
Cox?
in case you are surprised by that, in Utah, obviously.
Oh, look at that. Imagine that. A bunch of Mormons are Republican? Fuck you,
Isn't that
Crystal.
crazy?
How fucking bigoted of you.
Republican. And what he said in response to this is this rhetoric, we can put this up on the screen. Media, it had a kind of roundup of some of the criticism here. They say she was roundly condemned after calling for a national divorce on Twitter. Spencer Cox.
I like how they put the picture of her from the State of the Union on that.
Yes.
That's not where she said that.
Governor of Utah said this rhetoric is destructive and wrong and honestly evil. We don't need a divorce. We need marriage counseling. And we need elected leaders that don't profit by tearing us apart. We can disagree without hate. Healthy conflict was critical to our nation's founding and survival. He has a little Reagan quote there. But then I liked what he said here. He said that he doesn't mean just civility and kindness, although we definitely need more of that too. I mean passionate disagreement that does not destroy our souls and our country. Healthy conflict is good and foundational, but we must be Americans first and partisans second or last. And I like the way he phrased that, because sometimes these things get just like bound up in decorum and civility politics, which I think is silly. There should be fierce debates. It should be raw. It should be passionate.
Why do you insist that we should shut this down?
Right.
If you're going to argue here all of a sudden now that it's totally un-American, we shouldn't even have this conversation because it's so far afield. It's so ultra online. But we should have fierce debates, and we should be able to like sit there with dialogue and hammer this stuff out. Well, then maybe we should do that instead of you just dismiss this as if it's nothing, because you can't even conceptually understand what it is that MTG is actually trying to say.
It's too ultra online.
It's too ultra online. This is something you don't even take serious because
incoherent, she says.
It's incoherent. Yes. Well, I mean, it is MTG.
Nothing wrong with that whatsoever. But, you know, the idea that, oh, we're just going to give up on the other half of the country that disagrees with me, frankly, I think it's disgusting.
No, and that's such an important distinction because the like nonsense respectability theater that our politicians want to drag us into, which is like, you can't, how dare you say anything that's so critical of the American media or the American government, or you can't criticize our institutions because you're going to sow institutional distrust. Well, first of all, our institutions deserve to be distrusted. And so that's, I think, a distraction, but we should be able to, for instance, I have this long-standing disagreement with most people when they look at the Jon Stewart clip of him laying into Tucker Carlson and Paul Begala on Crossfire.
Yeah.
I forget what year it was, like 2004, somewhere around there.
Somewhere in there.
I don't think that was a great moment because I think what we lose...
It was also 20 years ago, damn near.
Yeah.
Why are we talking about this? Okay, so both of them now have given the same exact argument that we need to be able to talk about these things and have a conversation while dismissing this entire conversation as a whole. I don't like, they're sitting there, they're trying to say like, well, if you just call for a national divorce, that means you don't even want to talk. Exactly. You don't even want to talk to me. You don't want to talk to me about this, so you're just completely dismissing. How do you think we got here to begin with? It's because you refused to talk about anybody that did not agree with, that did not fall in the spectrum of what you deemed. They're
acceptable Overton
acceptable
window.
to discuss. Yeah, they're acceptable Overton window. Yes, thank you. So both of them are making that same exact argument right now that we should be discussing, but we shouldn't be discussing this.
No, because this is too ridiculous. This is
Exactly.
un-American.
This
This
is
is
un-American.
unreal. Yeah, we shouldn't even be talking about
But
this.
we should definitely have discussions about our disagreements.
Yes.
Well, bitch, I'm telling you right now, I disagree.
Right.
So much that I'm willing to say, you do you, we'll do us. But you won't even discuss that.
Right.
Okay.
Lose when we take away that sort of public example of debate, heated debate, intense debate, but where you have two representatives, and it's important that they do
only
actually
within the
represent both
bounds of
sides
the
of the
government.
argument, and
Yes.
they do it well, butting heads
On the
in
floor.
public, on television. I think that's
Even though you can't get anything to the floor for debate unless the party deems it necessary. Got it. Okay, we'll just forget about the entire corruption of the government that you two talk about on a fucking daily basis. I'm so angry.
A cathartic and important thing for Americans to be able to do and for Americans to be able to see. It's part of why this show works so well and that you and Sagar have always worked so well. It's because people do need to be able to see that because we can all do that with each other.
And when he disagrees too much,
that.
you just shout him right the fuck down.
Exactly. This is insane. Somebody got to talk to Joe about this, bro. Joe Rogan needs to quit boosting these motherfuckers, man. Yeah, I talked to those really like those alternative media sources, like that are really honest about their takes. Like Cristobal and Sagar Andretti over on Breaking Point. Joe, shut up. Listen to them.
Someone slide Joe some SOS.
Yeah, somebody slide into his DMs and be like, bro, turn it up.
Check out these long streaming motherfuckers.
I'm starting to think that Colin doesn't like Breaking Points. I don't know why. You know what's really funny, Joseph? Is I used to be an OG. I was an original supporter of Breaking Points once they left the Hill.
The Hill, yeah.
When they were, what were they before?
Rising.
Rising. When they were rising. I paid them hundreds of dollars over a long period of time until I finally was like, you people are insane. I can't support. I would write messages to them trying to give them like, you guys are making bad arguments. You're doing this. And I wasn't mean about it. It was nothing. And so I finally was like, cut this. I obviously don't belong here. Now Breaking Points exists solely to anger me.
And the corporate press, as they do now, tries to push us away from that and tries to say no purveyors of disinformation or hate or whatever deserve to breathe the same oxygen in our green rooms or get any room in our pages. Then this is how you set the stage for the national divorce conversation because people no longer think they can talk through these things because they don't see it happening.
Yeah, and it's about I can't control these other people, so I just have to it's an almost totalitarian instinct, honestly.
It's totalitarian to want to have freedom of choice is totalitarian. To want to separate yourself from an ever-growing federal and state government is totalitarian.
That is increasingly authoritarian as it grows larger and larger and larger.
Yes.
Okay, that is just, it's anti-democratic.
Because you want to separate from the government. You want to control everything.
Everybody.
You want to control everybody. What are you talking about?
I'm right there with you, Kevin. I used to... You want to hear something crazy? I used to follow the Young Turks years ago when I thought I was a progressive. It's cool. Just giving you a hard time.
I've been fucking with I used to fuck with the Young Turks hard.
Yeah, me too. Now I just fuck with Jimmy Dore because he's the only like hardcore progressive that I can stand.
Yeah.
Mostly because he's really entertaining. He makes me laugh. I just skip over the first 10 or 15 minutes of his podcast where it's those fucking phone calls that they fake.
Yeah, I don't like
that at all.
Those are not funny.
I just skip through all of that.
Yes.
But no, man, it's fun. But I'm trying to think. Is there any other progressives? Think about this while we finish this clip. I'm going to think about it too. Any other like really, really progressive people that we actually enjoy their conversation.
Okay.
On the Jon Stewart point, I think what people are reacting to is how inauthentic that particular debate, how it was just theater.
Cartoonish,
exactly.
Yeah.
But the core
like
point
6,
of
Crystal was
having
like 20.
people disagree and like genuinely going at it and battling it out, I think that's the core of what we should all be about. Hey guys, ready or not, 2024 is fully upon us now.
Fuck you, I hate that. Hey guys, 2024 is fully upon us right now. Oh, I hate it. Okay. Hey everybody, Colin here from Salt in the Streets. Thank you for watching today's edition of Salty Shorts. If you liked what you saw, please be sure to check out the full episode right here on the Salt of the Streets YouTube channel. Please give us a like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to share this with all your friends. And you too can become a spreader of the message of liberty. Thanks.
Welcome to the Salt of the Streets, coming at you every week with this food for thought. Hope you